We'll begin this hour in Nigeria's commercial nerve center of Lagos, where on this day 3 years ago, some youth staged a protest that took Nigeria by storm, demanding an end to police brutality, amongst other requests. Earlier today, there was a peaceful procession at the toll gate, venue of the endears protest that happened on 20th of October 2020. TVC News Theophilus Ilama has more.
I remember my sisters, water on our way, my eyes, water on our way, and I remember my uncles, water on our way,
Led by actor Debo Adediran, also known as Mr. Macaroni, the procession took off from the toll gates towards Lekki Phase 1. The protesters say they want justice for victims of the 20th of October. This year, the protesters met a brick wall and were not allowed to gather around the Lekki toll gate, but rather move in a procession as part of security measures employed. Security operatives were on hand to keep the peace and ensure no harm was done to anyone.
So far, it's been completely peaceful, stable, and yes, we had one or two groups that came around on procession, and so far they've been working within our understanding of how it should be. And what is that understanding? As a citizen, you of course reserve your right to exercise your freedom franchise. We'll protect it, we'll respect it, and we'll do it in such a way that in the course of exercising that, the group members are not also exposed to any form of danger.
While reiterating the need for citizens to abide by the rules, the Commissioner of Police assured that men of the force are on hand to ensure peace and security in the state.
In planning an operation of this nature, we anticipate. So we do not essentially put all our operational eggs in one basket. So we are securing the entire Lagos public space.
The Lekki toll gate has become a remembrance of the protests that took place there in October 2020. The protesters are calling on the government to ensure that justice is gotten for victims. Theophilus Ilama, TVC News, Lagos.
And Amnesty International is thinking differently on the endears protest that took place at the Lekki toll gate. The body is saying that a total of 15 protesters arrested in 2020 are still being arbitrarily detained 3 years after the protest. According to a statement by the international non-governmental organization on the 3rd anniversary of the protest, the body says majority of the protesters are in Kirikiri Medium Correctional Center and Ikoyi Medium Security Correctional Center in Lagos without trial. It noted that Nigerian authorities have filed made-up charges, including theft, arson, possession of unlawful firearms, and murder against many of the protesters. The Amnesty International report added that many peaceful endears protesters have alleged that they've been subjected to torture and other ill treatment while in detention since 2020. The report also noted that despite consistent claims of carrying out comprehensive police reforms in the aftermath of endears protests, Nigeria's police continue to routinely commit various violations of human rights. And for more on the activities of the Nigerian police and quest for maintaining human rights, let's talk to human rights lawyer Inebe Effiong, who joins us live via Zoom from Lagos. Thanks for joining us on TVC News at 7. 3 years after, with the federal government's attempt at police reform, and also quite a number of things we've seen, how much improvement would you say we've seen with police brutality?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. In the last 3 years, what we have seen has been reluctance on the part of government to meet the demands, the legitimate demands of Nigerians who came out under the auspices of the endears protests to demand comprehensive police reform. I need to say that the entire endears protest itself was basically a platform It was just a messaging that young people use to express their, disapproval of what became the very monstrous, or what has become, because it hasn't ended, the very monstrous and, to a large extent, criminally induced culture of policing in our country. It wasn't just about SARS. SARS was just a picture, a reflection of the general decay in the force. Now, the protesters went out across the country to demand that the police should be reformed. The then government told us that they were going to reform the police. As you are aware, several panels of inquiries were constituted across the country, apart from Lagos State, and maybe 2 other states, where some form of monetary compensation was paid to victims of SARS. In majority of the states across the country, those who are victims of the disbanded, in quotes, SARS, were not compensated and are still yearning for justice. Beyond the monetary compensation, we have also not seen policemen who were involved in the atrocities committed by the anti-robbery squad, SARS, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, being prosecuted, despite the recommendation of Judicial Commission of Inquiry that were empaneled across the states. We have not seen any officer, a single officer, brought to justice on account of the recommendation of the NSAS panel. That
I hear you, Mr. Efong.
Now,
Recall that one of the 5 demands made in 2020 was a disbandment of SARS, and that was done in the previous administration. Did it take the foot a little bit away off the pedal when it comes to police brutality across board?
No, it has not. That is exactly the point I'm making. That right as we are having this interview, I can guarantee you that policemen are still extorting Nigerians across the country. Policemen are still mounting illegal roadblocks.
Well, I think your mic is muted. Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Efong? We can't hear you again from here.
Of Nigerians who have been extrajudicially killed by the police between the NSAS protests of 2020 and date. I don't know if we even have the statistics of that. So what that speaks to is that what the government has done is just window dressing. The real issue is that the culture of accountability is absent in the police. And I have always argued that the police is incapable of reforming itself. There is no Inspector General of Police that comes to office that does not make certain declarations. 1, that roadblocks have been disbanded. 2, that policemen have been withdrawn from VIPs, that citizens' phones should be set. None of this has ever been implemented, including the current IG, And I say that as someone who had that cause very recently in a number of cases to take up the police on account of serial infraction of the rights of Nigerians. So what I see is that despite the protests of 2020, the Nigerian state has not learned any lesson. The Nigerian police is not remorseful. There is no desire to change the police. The impunity is still going on. The corruption is still going on. Go to police cells across the country. People are still being detained. No, people are still paying money for bail.
All right, Mr. Efong. That's our time. We'll definitely get back to this conversation subsequently. Human rights lawyer Inebe Efong, thank you for talking to us on the news this hour.
Thank you.